Hi there, I'm Mel Clark. I'm a director of a company called Black Balance Projects. We are a multidisciplinary consulting company in the built environment sector. I'm a founder of the company together with my business partner Malcolm Bigger, and we've been in business for 16 years now. Yes, I'm sort of a product of both farm and city. My education started in an area called Mangeta, which is near the Tugela River mouth. I don't know if you know the story of John Donne, but anyhow, I'm from that clan of that part of the world. Grew up on the farm and went to school there. It's worth mentioning for me because it really instilled the value of love for family, love for local community, and a very strong work ethic, as people from the farm tend to have. But also at that time, in the sort of late 70s and early 80s, an appreciation of people coming from different walks of life, you know. We spoke Zulu, we mixed with people of all types, and it really was a solid grounding as a young child. And then at high school, I think what's worth mentioning is obviously in the early 80s, it was quite a hectic time in our country, and got involved in student anti-apartheid protests. And that experience really installed a capacity for critical thinking that I think has been quite a cornerstone for whatever I developed as a person after that. But also organizational skills, project management, team building. Those were a big part of my schooling and education. After school, I initially thought I was going to go and become a doctor. So I did 1 year of medicine at UCT, but didn't go much beyond that, and was drawn to the social sciences, especially industrial sociology, and completed a degree at the then University of Durban, Westville, and studied industrial relations and law after that. And from that, then got involved in the trade union movement, which led to my first job. So maybe just a mention of that. My first job was as an organizer in the Clothing and Textile Workers Union here in Durban, recruiting workers early in the morning at the crack of dawn in the Jacobs Mobeni area, getting involved in wage negotiations, learning labor law, and learning from worker leadership. So it was really not a normal sort of first working environment where one would learn from bosses. Here, as coming in as the more sort of university educated person, I had to learn from workers, which was very fulfilling in its own way. So at the moment, I'm an executive director of Black Balance. I think that's a fancy term for do whatever needs to be done. We're a small company, and so there's lots of different roles that I have to play. My focus is really on building the brand of the business, focusing on project opportunities. We do quite a bit of feasibility work. So we have in our business town planning, architecture, quantity surveying, engineering. And I try to knit these disciplines together to look at the feasibility of doing different types of projects, mostly in the built environment, but some of them are economic projects. And so rather than focus on a specific discipline or aspect of it, my role is to try to get them to talk to each other around a common goal or vision for a project, and make it workable. I think for me the theme of the why is building bridges and building connections between people and spaces and ideas. Our company is called Black Balance. I was part of sort of the architect of that name. If you know photography, there's a thing called white balance. The opposite of that is black balance. But it achieves the same effect of making the picture, the photographic picture, more real. You have less ghosting and less high and low lights. And that's what we wanted to do with this company, to try to bring more balance between black and white in terms of economic empowerment, balance between live, work and play spaces, balance between social, economic and environmental needs. And so the why for me, why I do what I do, is really about trying to bring that balance by connecting people and different disciplines and different opportunities to those who seek to make a go of things, to bring their passion together with skill. That's not an easy one, but the one thing I think that stands out for me, being a sort of very KZN rooted person, is the role that I played in helping with the formulation and development of the Provincial Growth and Development Strategy. I spent quite a few years on that together with the Provincial Planning Commission, the likes of Ricky Brooks and many others, in trying to develop a strategy and ultimately a plan that incorporates the visions of the many stakeholders in our society. So during that time, we spent an enormous amount of time talking to groups and people from all walks of life, business, trade union, community people, government workers, unemployed, across the board, academics, and trying to knit that together into something that is workable and not too boring, hopefully, that people can rally around and that you can have an implementation around. And that started, or was quite far down the road, even before the National Development Plan was put on the table. And up to today, if you look at almost every major speech, if you look at the State of the Province addresses through the last 13, 14 years, it's been mentioned every time, and it's become a point of reference for planning every time. So that's something I'm particularly proud of. Of course, it's all well and good to have a good plan, but it's about implementation at the end of the day. And that's where some of the disappointment is, that we haven't really implemented all aspects of that strategy and plan the way we should have. But it's still there to guide us, and still there to rally around. So it is something that I feel proud of being part of. So again, there's been lots, and it's hard to pick one out. I think if I go back to those early working days of my first job in the trade union movement, I was mentored by a worker leader called John Zikali. Those in Durban know the steep hill called John Zikali Drive. That's the guy. He had an enormous stature and reputation. But anyhow, to come back to the advice and the influence, I came in as a young university student, overzealous to, beat up the bosses and make sure workers' rights are advanced, and be as militant as young students can be. And in his wisdom, he taught me, both with direct words and with actions, in the way that he led the union, that you've got to develop the capacity and the capability and even skill to be able to see things from the other person's perspective. Where I would be hell-bent that the only way to teach these employers a lesson is to go on strike. He would take his time to sit me down and explain the history of some of the struggles that he's been through and why it's important to be able to understand even the employer's point of view, and why going for direct conflict is not always the best and wisest route. And he kept on with that for a few years, testing my capability to, even in heated moments, step into the other person's shoes. And if you were in their shoes, what would you take into consideration? How would you see things? How would you respond to an unfair or aggressive approach or position? So he was an amazing person for me, not just a worker leader. He was in his own right a pastor, a sports fan, a community activist, a father, and he just found a way to balance all these beautiful aspects of a person with this overriding ability to look beyond his immediate vision and point of view. So I think that's something that has influenced me strongly. In terms of my career, from the trade union movement, I went into government full time and had to, be able to appreciate the perspective of people who worked in government. After that, going into the private sector, I was able to adapt and understand that perspective and people who worked in that sphere. So I think it's allowed me to grow as a person, but also to be able to engage with people in a more empathic and honest way. The challenge of personally coping with failure, when your business hits the skids. We certainly did that, in fact, just before the COVID period, but it got worse, over the COVID impact period, where there's such a strong tendency or temptation to blame yourself, to make it personal. And feel like that failure is because of you, or that you are a personal failure. That temptation is there. And with that then goes the risk of you giving up on the business. So even though there are people around you who depend on their jobs and what have you, that temptation to be paralyzed by that sense of failure and to allow the business to fall is there. So that was a challenge that I had to face, and I think that I was able to learn that lesson, that business failure is not personal failure. In fact, like many wise coaches say, that failure is there to teach you something to grow the business further. It took me a bit of time, as we came out of COVID, to really appreciate the lessons from that downturn and that period of struggle, where cash flow wise the wolves were really at the door. But I did learn it, and we did learn it, and we've been able to grow since then. Such that I think that, even if further challenges come, and they are here and they come all the time, as you would know, there's a very strong negative narrative in many parts of business about whether it's worth it and how bad things are, etc. So challenges will come, and they are here, but I am now a more firm believer that those challenges are put there to train us, give us some gym, and commit us to better ways of doing things and being stronger going forward. In any case, we have to teach our kids this type of resilience as well. If we run away from our problems or collapse in a sense of personal failure, what are we teaching our kids when they face tough situations, as they will, no matter where in the world they go? So I'm glad for that challenge and experience, and believe that it strengthened me. Now, I'm a bit of a believer in psychology, and so I tend to dig a bit deep into where there is conflict, what are the underlying reasons for it. And generally, it means spending some time and energy in talking to people about what really bugs them, beyond the words that they put on the surface or the specific issue that people might be in conflict about. Whenever conflict becomes sharp and people become more emotional about that conflict in the team or in the workplace, you can be reasonably sure that there are other dynamics below that. And people need to be given a space to air that in a safe way, and to have somebody facilitate engaging with their teammates around what it is that is unsettling them or causing them problems. Sometimes it's a smaller thing, but often it's even experiences that people are having outside of the workplace, trauma or stress at home that then gets acted out in the workplace. So my tendency is to go that route of talking to people about what is really going on beyond this issue, and give them and whoever they're conflicting with the space to have empathy and understand the other person's point of view or what the other person's going through. And generally, that not only resolves the tension but strengthens the team, where you have somebody who is able to understand you more deeply and have empathy for a struggle that you're going on that they can't or feel a bit shy to bring out in the workplace. It strengthens the team enormously. So that's generally how I try to deal with conflicts. And in terms of motivation, really, it's so important that you help people identify where their passion is. And that's not always possible. Sometimes jobs have very strict walls around them, but often, especially in our type of environment where you are involved in design, you are involved in feasibility, you have many aspects to it, and to try to link people with where their passions are generally keeps people motivated. So I try to do that where that's possible. For me, the short answer would be family, experience of family, and growing older, the idea that yes, you have friends and yes, you have networks, but at the end of the day, a family that is closest to you matters most. And so that inspires me to achieve more, but also to appreciate the need for balance between the attempt to apply my skills and build a business with why I'm doing it, which is for family and to sustain and grow family. So I think that's in some way an inspiration for. I think for the next 5 years, my vision is for KZN to try to regain and surpass its status as the best place to be in South Africa. As you know, we've long had that reputation. The warmest place, the warmest hearts, where people not only enjoyed our natural beauty, but also enjoyed our people. My vision is for us to focus on that and regain that over the coming years. It has been affected by many things that we know about as a province and the city of Durban, eThekwini in particular. But I think that if we make that breakthrough and work at rebuilding that image of KZN as a lovely place to come to, not only for its natural beauty and offerings from beach to berg, bush, but also in terms of people who are warm and welcoming, that will have a strong knock-on effect in terms of investment and business in Durban. I've been involved in many studies. One of them, for example, a few years ago, looked at attracting headquarters from Gauteng to Durban for trade and investment KZN, and that study just showed how strong the link is between people's perception of being welcomed as a place and the investment value of a place. It's not just about the maths of input costs and profits. It's also about perceptions of, is it sustainable to be here with these people? Am I welcome? Will I be able to enter networks, or is it closed? So it's a bit of a roundabout answer that has to do more or sound more like tourism, but I do think that for me, that vision of making us a really welcoming place to be unlocks the potential for investment and business growth for the next 5 years. I'm very conscious about the saying of time is precious, and just that cliche of value every moment, value all of the time that you have, because time goes by so quickly. And I'm a project manager at heart, so manage your time, make time for things that matter, but including enjoying life. So make time for that 10K run, that round of golf as well.